In this video, I want to talk about NPV and IRR in Excel. There's a little bit of a flaw, I would say flaw, in the net present value function in Excel, so I want to address what that is. So assuming you know how to get these cash flows, we'll move from there. So we have an initial investment of $136 million, and each year there's going to be some, and there are no formulas here, there's going to be some revenue minus the change in cost, minus the change in depreciation. You have your earnings before tax, you take out your tax, add back depreciation, you have your operating cash flow. So you want to have the present value of these operating cash flows. So the way you do present value is future value divided by 1 plus the discount rate, and we'll assume the WACC is the appropriate discount rate in this case, and it's 12%, and we'll raise that to the power for the year. So of course for 0, it's the same as 136 million. Go all the way to these 10 years and Control Shift 1 to get that value. And then the net present value is the sum of those cash flows, right? Easy enough. So here we have negative $5 million. Let's change this to maybe minus 120. This way we have a positive net present value just so we can feel better about it. So there's also a net present value function equal NPV, and it says give me the rate. Great, there's the rate, and then give me the values. Here are all the values. That seems fair, and that number is different. Why is that different? Here's why. So if I do equal net present value, this rate, and the future cash flows, not the cash flow in year 0, but the future cash flows, that's the net present value of, I'm using the wrong one, these. Just like I have there. So that's the present value of those future cash flows. If I add that to the initial expense, I get the same number. So this number, highlight it, is the same as that number. So what the net present value function is doing is treating the first cash flow like it was year 1, not year 0. It would make sense to me that the first cash flow would be year 1, not year 0. So what you have to do for the NPV function is equal NPV, give me the rate, comma, the future cash flows starting in year 1 going to the end, and then add the negative, make sure it's negative, initial investment. And now we have the same numbers. So net present value function assumes the first cash flow is next year, and you have to subtract year 0. IRR equal internal rate of return. The values, same thing right here. And you can put a guess in. We don't need a guess. And let's say that's 14.13. Is that correct? Well, the internal rate of return is the discount rate that makes the net present value 0. So yes, that is correct. So IRR assumes the first cash flow is in year 0, which makes sense. NPV assumes the first cash flow is in year 1, which doesn't make sense. So make sure you're not burned with that. So when you're doing capital budgeting, get those cash flows, take the present value to get the NPV, use the NPV function, but be careful about that year 0, and how our function works as you think it would.